Chosen one, listen to me carefully. I carry an urgent message today. And this message is not for everyone. This is not for the curious, not for the mockers, not for those who play with God, but do not walk with Him. If you are not walking the divine path, if your heart is not surrendered to God, you may leave now. This message will not resonate with you. But if you are a true follower of God, if you have felt the weight of spiritual responsibility on your soul, if you have been walking a lonely road with faith as your only light, then this message found you at the exact right moment. Not early, not late, right on time. Chosen one, you have just unlocked a new power. And whether you realize it or not, it is shaking people around you. Some are confused, some are threatened. Some are quietly breaking inside, even crying over what God is doing through you. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to reveal will bring clarity to what you've been feeling, peace to your mind, and confirmation to your spirit. Before we continue, chosen ones, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tap the bell icon. Share this message with other chosen ones and comment 777 below to declare that you are aligned with God's divine timing and mission. The moment God activated something new inside you, chosen one, I want you to breathe for a moment and listen closely. What you are experiencing right now did not happen by accident. It was not random. It was not sudden in God's eyes. Even if it felt sudden in yours, God has been preparing this moment quietly, patiently, long before you were even aware of it. There comes a time in the life of every chosen one when God stops teaching only through struggle and starts activating through awareness. That is the moment you are in now. This new power you unlocked is not something dramatic on the outside. It is not lightning, not visions, not noise. It is internal. It is subtle. It is deep. And that is why it is so powerful. You may have noticed it first as a shift rather than an event. Something inside you changed. You didn't announce it. You didn't plan it. It just happened. Things that once disturbed you no longer have the same grip. Conversations that once pulled you into emotional chaos now feel distant. You didn't become cold. You became clear. That clarity is the activation. For a long time, God allowed you to feel deeply. You felt rejection deeply. You felt betrayal deeply. You felt misunderstood deeply. That season trained your heart. But now God is training your spirit to lead instead of your emotions. This new power is discernment mixed with peace. It is the ability to see without reacting, to hear without absorbing, to stand without defending. Let me tell you something important. Many people think spiritual power looks like dominance, confidence, or bold speech. But that is not what God gives first. God gives alignment before authority. He gives peace before influence. He gives silence before impact. What you unlocked is not the need to speak more, but the strength to speak less and mean more. You may have noticed that you don't feel the urge to explain yourself anymore. That is not laziness. That is not apathy. That is God removing the burden of proving who you are. When you are unactivated, you wanted people to understand you. Now you understand yourself, and that changes everything. This activation often comes after a season of exhaustion. You were tired in a way that sleep could not fix. Not because you were weak, but because you were carrying emotional weights that were never meant to go into your next season. God does not activate new power in cluttered space. He clears first. That clearing feels like confusion, sadness, or emotional numbness. But it is holy work. You might ask yourself, why now? Why after all the pain? Why after all the waiting? Because power without maturity destroys the vessel. God waited until you could hold this power without becoming bitter, arrogant, or reactive. He waited until your ego softened and your heart learned humility. This is not a reward for perfection. This is an activation born out of endurance. Chosen one, this new power is the ability to remain anchored when others are drowning in emotion. You no longer absorb chaos the way you used to. You notice things, but they don't attach to you. That is not avoidance. That is boundaries formed by wisdom. God is teaching you that you can love people without carrying them. Another sign of this activation is your relationship with silence. Silence used to feel uncomfortable. Now it feels safe. You don't rush to fill space. You don't rush to respond. You don't rush to react. That pause is not weakness. That pause is authority. God is teaching you timing. And timing is one of the highest forms of power. You may also feel less interested in convincing people of your truth, not because you doubt it, but because you trust God to reveal it in His way. You are learning that revelation works better than explanation. And this is where people start feeling unsettled around you. Because when you stop explaining, they are forced to face themselves. This activation also comes with a strange calm. Even when things are uncertain, you are not panicking the way you used to. Your problems didn't disappear, but your fear did. That calm is not denial. It is faith matured. You are learning that God does not panic, so neither should you. Let me be clear. This new power does not make you better than others. It makes you responsible for yourself. God is not elevating you above people. He is elevating you above emotional slavery. You are no longer ruled by every opinion, reaction, or mood around you. That freedom feels unfamiliar at first, but it is divine. Some of you notice this activation through loss. Something ended, a relationship, a role, a version of yourself. And instead of collapsing, you felt strangely steady. You grieved, yes, but you did not break. That stability is not numbness. It is spiritual grounding. God is also changing how you see people. You no longer see only behavior. You see wounds. You see fear. You see insecurity. And because of that, you don't take things personally the way you used to. This is dangerous for those who relied on your reactions to feel powerful, because when you stop reacting, their influence disappears. This power also shows up as an inner knowing. You trust your discernment more. Now you don't need constant confirmation. You sense when something is off. You sense when something is aligned. That intuition is not imagination. It is the Holy Spirit sharpening your awareness. You may have wondered why some doors closed suddenly, why certain people faded, why conversations stopped. That was part of the activation. God removed distractions before increasing clarity, because this power cannot coexist with constant emotional noise. Chosen one, understand this. You did not become heartless. You became centered. You did not lose compassion. You gained wisdom. You did not stop caring. You stopped bleeding. And here is the most important part. This power was activated quietly because it is meant to operate quietly. God is not preparing you to impress people. He is preparing you to influence atmospheres. When you walk into a room now, things shift without words. Peace enters. Tension is exposed. Truth becomes uncomfortable. That is why some people feel uneasy around you now. They can't explain it. They just feel it. You carry something you didn't carry before. Not because you changed who you are, but because God activated who you were always meant to be. This is not the end of your growth. This is the beginning of your authority. And I want you to hear this clearly, chosen one. This new power is not loud because it does not need permission. It does not argue its existence. It simply stands. God has shifted you from striving to being, from chasing validation to carrying presence. That is a dangerous shift for anyone who only felt powerful when you were unsure of yourself. You may feel moments where you miss the old version of you, the one who tried harder, the one who explained more, the one who bent to keep peace. That nostalgia is normal. But God did not remove that version to punish you. He removed it because it could not survive where He is taking you. Old coping mechanisms cannot operate in new dimensions. This power also comes with responsibility. You are now more aware of your words, your energy, your reactions. Not because you are afraid, but because you are intentional. You understand now that everything you carry has weight. Even silence speaks when it comes from alignment. There will be moments when you question this calm, when life tries to provoke you back into old patterns. But notice this, you recover faster now. You don't spiral the way you used to. You don't stay stuck in emotional loops. That is growth. You cannot fake. God has activated something that cannot be undone. Once awareness is given, it cannot be taken back. You can ignore it, but you cannot unsee it. And this is why your life will never fully return to how it was before. Not because it is worse, but because you are no longer unconscious. Chosen one, this power is not about control. It is about alignment. And when you are aligned, everything else begins to fall into its rightful place, without force, without fear, and without noise. Why they feel threatened and are emotionally breaking. Chosen one, I need you to understand this part with wisdom, not emotion. What is happening around you is not random, and it is not because you suddenly became aggressive, proud, or arrogant. In fact, it is the opposite. The reason some people are disturbed, unsettled, or emotionally breaking is because you changed without becoming loud about it. You see, when people expect you to remain the same, your growth feels like betrayal to them, not because you did something wrong, but because your evolution forces them to face what they avoided within themselves. And most people do not cry because they hate you. They cry because they recognize something in you that reminds them of what they abandoned in themselves. Let me slow this down for you because this is important for your peace. People are not reacting to your words. Many of them are reacting to your absence of words. You stopped explaining. You stopped defending. You stopped seeking approval. And that silence removes the illusion of control they once had over you. When someone can no longer predict your reactions, they feel exposed. There are people who were comfortable with you when you were uncertain, when you were seeking validation, when you were emotionally available in ways that benefited them. But now, your calm is unfamiliar to them. Your boundaries confuse them. Your lack of reaction unsettles them. And instead of admitting they feel insecure, they label you as distant, cold, or changed. Chosen one, understand this clearly. Not everyone who cries over you is your enemy. Some are grieving the version of you that made them feel safe. Some are realizing that you no longer need them the way you once did. And that realization hurts. Your growth has removed a role you used to play in their lives. Maybe you were the listener, the fixer, the emotional support, the one who absorbed chaos so others didn't have to. And when God released you from that assignment, it created emotional withdrawal symptoms in people who depended on your availability. That does not make you cruel. It makes you healed. Here is where discernment matters. There are two types of reactions you will notice. One comes from conviction. The other comes from control loss. Conviction looks like silence, reflection, or distance without drama. Control loss looks like guilt-tripping emotional manipulation, subtle attacks, or sudden criticism. When someone loses influence over you, they often try to regain it through emotional pressure. This is where you must remain steady. Your calm now exposes emotional immaturity in others. And that exposure feels like judgment to people who are not ready to grow. You are not judging them. You are simply no longer participating in dysfunction. But to someone still living in it, your withdrawal feels like rejection. Some people are crying because they see you walking in clarity. They prayed for but never pursued. Others are crying because your discipline highlights their excuses. And some are crying because they can no longer access you the way they used to. This is why I told you earlier not to become paranoid. Not everyone who reacts is malicious. Some people are genuinely hurting. But here is the truth you must hold without guilt. You are not responsible for regulating emotions that God is asking them to confront. You are not called to dim your peace to make others comfortable. Another reason people feel threatened is because your presence now reflects stability. And unstable people are often intimidated by stability. When someone thrives in chaos, peace feels foreign to them. Your grounded nature disrupts environments that survive on emotional noise. Have you noticed this? Conversations change when you enter a room. People become quieter, or they become defensive, or they over-explain themselves. That is not because you are intimidating. It is because clarity invites truth, and truth makes avoidance uncomfortable. There are people who relied on your emotional reactions to feel significant. Your anger validated them. Your sadness empowered them. Your confusion made them feel superior. But now that you are regulated, they feel powerless. And power loss often leads to emotional breakdowns. Chosen one, hear me clearly. This is not your fault. Your growth did not harm them. It revealed them. Another thing you must understand is this. When God elevates you internally, He often leaves others externally unchanged. That contrast creates tension. People expect you to stay relatable to their current level. But God is not concerned with relatability. He is concerned with obedience. Some of the tears you witness are not about you at all. They are about loss of access, loss of influence, loss of familiarity, loss of control. And loss always produces grief. But grief does not give anyone the right to pull you back into old patterns. Let me also speak to the ones who feel misunderstood right now. Some people will say, "You think you're better now." No, chosen one. You think clearer now. And clarity feels like superiority to those who live in confusion. Others will say, "You've changed." And they are right. Growth always looks like change to those who refuse to grow. The mistake would be trying to convince them otherwise. You do not need to defend transformation God authorized. Your job is not to make people comfortable with your evolution. Your job is to steward it responsibly. Here is the hardest truth. Some people will emotionally unravel because they built part of their identity around you. Staying small around you, staying accessible around you, staying emotionally open without boundaries. And when God rewrote that dynamic, it destabilized them. That does not mean you should go back. Chosen one, you must release the need to rescue people from emotions they need to process. God is doing deep work in them too, whether they admit it or not. Sometimes your silence is the invitation for them to face God directly instead of leaning on you. Do not mistake their tears for a sign that you should retreat. Sometimes tears are the beginning of healing, not evidence of harm. But also be wise. Not every emotional display deserves access to you. Compassion does not mean self-abandonment. Love does not mean losing boundaries. Jesus himself withdrew when crowds tried to pull from him endlessly. If you feel tension resistance or emotional reactions around you, lately take it as confirmation, not condemnation. Something shifted, something activated, and environments are adjusting. Remain calm, remain grounded, remain kind. But do not shrink, because this season is not about explaining your growth. It is about embodying it. The silent authority. God is teaching you to walk in chosen one. This is where many people misunderstand what God is doing in you. They think power must be announced. They think authority must be proven. They think strength must be loud. But God does not operate that way, and neither do those He trains deeply. What God is teaching you now is silent authority. And silent authority is the most unsettling form of power to anyone who relies on noise, intimidation, or emotional pressure. Let me say this plainly. When you used to react, argue, explain, or defend yourself, people felt familiar with you. They knew which buttons to press. They knew how to pull you into emotional exchanges. They felt equal footing with you, even when they were wrong. But now you pause, you observe, you respond only when necessary, and that changes the entire dynamic. Silence is not absence. Silence is control. God is training you to let your presence speak louder than your emotions ever did. You no longer rush to correct misunderstandings. You no longer feel responsible for managing how people interpret you. That restraint is not weakness. It is mastery over self. And mastery over self always precedes authority over atmosphere. Notice how your words carry more weight. Now you speak less, but when you do speak, people listen differently. That is because your words are no longer fueled by emotion. They are grounded in clarity, and clarity has gravity. This is difficult for people who relied on debate manipulation or confusion to maintain influence. When you stop engaging, their tactics collapse. Silence removes the battlefield they needed to feel powerful. Chosen one, hear this carefully. God is not teaching you to be passive. He is teaching you to be precise. There is a difference. Passivity avoids responsibility. Precision chooses the right moment, the right words, and the right energy. You may have noticed that you no longer feel the urge to correct everyone. That is growth. Not everyone deserves your explanation. Not every misunderstanding needs clarification. Some things are revealed only through consistency, not conversation. This is where many chosen ones struggle. Silence feels like surrender, but it is not surrendering your truth. It is surrendering your need to control perception. And that is one of the hardest lessons God teaches. When Jesus stood silent before accusation, it was not because he lacked truth. It was because truth does not need to shout to be real. God is aligning you with that same principle. Your silence now acts like a mirror. People project onto it. Their insecurities rise. Their assumptions surface. Their guilt speaks. And because you are not filling the space, they are forced to confront themselves. That confrontation feels uncomfortable, even threatening you, are also learning restraint. Just because you see something does not mean you must address it. Just because you understand someone's motives does not mean you must expose them. Wisdom knows when to act and when to remain still. This is why God often removes the desire to be right before he gives authority. Authority without humility becomes arrogance. Authority without restraint becomes destruction. God is protecting both you and others by training you slowly. Another sign of silent authority is emotional regulation. Situations that once triggered you no longer hijack your peace. That does not mean you are unaffected. It means you are not controlled. You feel, but you are not consumed. People notice this. They test it. They poke. They provoke. Not because they hate you, but because they are trying to see if the old version of you still exists. When you don't respond the way they expect, they feel disoriented. Let them. You are not obligated to reintroduce old versions of yourself to make others comfortable. This authority also changes how you move through conflict. You no longer need to win arguments. You focus on maintaining alignment. You understand now that winning an argument but losing peace is not victory. God values your inner stability more than public validation. There will be moments when silence feels heavy, when you want to speak but sense God asking you to wait. That waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. Timing is everything, and God is sharpening your sense of timing. Chosen one. People who operate in loud authority fear silence because silence cannot be manipulated. It cannot be twisted. It cannot be baited easily. Silence requires maturity to handle, and many people do not have it. This is why some people label you as distant or cold. They are not used to someone who does not feed emotional cycles. They are not used to someone who does not react on command. But remember this, you are not withdrawing from love. You are withdrawing from chaos. Silent authority also means trusting God to defend you. You no longer rush to clear your name. You no longer panic when misunderstood. You trust that God will reveal truth in time. That trust takes courage. And yes, sometimes silence will cost you relationships. Not because you did something wrong, but because not everyone can walk with someone who has learned restraint. Some people only bond through drama. When drama disappears, so does the connection. That loss can hurt, but it is also confirmation. God is teaching you to lead yourself first, to govern your emotions, to steward your energy, to choose peace without guilt. That is authority. And here is something many do not realize. Silent authority is not permanent silence. It is selective speech. When you do speak now, it carries weight because it is rare, because it is intentional, because it is aligned. You are learning that not every truth must be spoken immediately. Some truths need time to mature. Some need space. Some need prayer before words. Chosen one, you are becoming someone whose presence shifts environments before your mouth opens. That is not accidental. That is trained. Do not rush this process. Do not apologize for it. And do not abandon it to satisfy those who miss the old version of you. God is teaching you to walk in authority that does not need to announce itself. And once you learn that nothing and no one can easily shake you again, there is another layer to this silent authority that many chosen ones do not recognize at first. God is also teaching you restraint in success. You are learning not to announce every breakthrough, not to explain every blessing, not to justify every elevation. What God gives you now is sacred before it is public. You may notice that you feel protective over your peace, that you no longer overshare, that you instinctively pull back when conversations drift toward gossip, negativity, or emotional chaos. This is not isolation. This is discernment. God is teaching you to guard what He is building in you before it is fully visible. Silent authority also changes how you respond to disrespect. You no longer feel the urge to retaliate or prove your worth. Not because you tolerate dishonor, but because you recognize it quickly and disengage. That ability to walk away without emotional residue is a sign of deep inner strength. Some people will misinterpret this as indifference. Let them. Indifference is not the absence of care. It is the presence of boundaries. And boundaries are a language of self-respect. God teaches His chosen ones early. You are also learning that silence creates space for God to move. When you step back, He steps forward. When you stop explaining, He starts revealing. When you stop defending, He starts distinguishing. This partnership requires trust, and trust grows only in quiet obedience. There will be moments when your silence feels lonely, when you wish someone understood without you having to explain. That ache is real. Even Jesus felt misunderstood. But remember, this understanding is not required for alignment. God understands you fully, and that is enough. This authority will continue to deepen as you practice it. The more you honor peace, the more peace multiplies. The more you choose restraint, the more clarity strengthens. Over time, silence will no longer feel heavy. It will feel natural, protective, grounded. Chosen one, this is not the season to speak louder. It is the season to stand firmer. Let your consistency speak. Let your calm testify. Let your boundaries teach. Because the authority God is giving you now does not need applause. It only needs alignment. The emotional detox you didn't realize was happening. Chosen ones, what you are experiencing right now may feel strange, even unsettling. But I want to name it for you clearly so your mind can rest. You are not losing people randomly. You are not becoming antisocial. You are not emotionally broken. You are going through an emotional detox orchestrated by God Himself. Detox is never comfortable. When toxins leave the body, there is discomfort, fatigue, confusion, and sometimes isolation. Emotional detox works the same way. God is removing emotional dependencies, unhealthy attachments, and survival patterns that once helped you cope but can no longer travel with you. You may notice that you are less interested in constant communication. Small talk feels draining. Repetitive conversations feel heavy. You are not bored with people. You are tired of emotional noise. Your spirit now craves depth, truth, and quiet presence. This is not arrogance. This is maturity. God is teaching you that rest is not laziness. Withdrawal is not rejection. Silence is not abandonment. You are learning to conserve emotional energy because God is preparing you for assignments that require clarity, not exhaustion. There was a time when you felt guilty for needing space. You felt responsible for everyone's feelings. You overextended yourself emotionally, thinking that love meant availability at all times. That version of you served its purpose, but it could not survive this next season. Now you listen differently. You don't rush to fix. You don't absorb every problem. You don't take on emotional burdens that were never yours. This detox is teaching you the difference between compassion and codependence. Let me tell you something that will settle your heart. Feeling distant does not mean you are disconnected from God. In fact, often it means you are more connected than ever. God pulls His chosen ones inward before He sends them outward. He strengthens the root before expanding the branches. You may feel lonelier even when surrounded by people. That loneliness is not emptiness. It is transition. Old emotional agreements are dissolving, but new ones have not yet formed. This in-between space can feel uncomfortable, but it is sacred. God is also detoxing you from emotional urgency. You no longer feel the need to respond immediately. You no longer panic when someone misunderstands you. You no longer chase closure. That calm is not indifference. It is trust. There are people who will not recognize you in this season. They may say you are different. They may say you are withdrawn. They may say you are unavailable. But what they are really noticing is that they no longer have unlimited access to you. Access is changing because your value is being protected. Another part of this detox is emotional honesty with yourself. You are no longer forcing connections out of obligation. You are no longer pretending to enjoy environments that drain you. You are no longer silencing your intuition to keep peace. This can feel like grief. You may mourn old friendships, old dynamics, old versions of yourself. That grief is valid. Growth always requires letting go. But letting go does not mean you failed. It means you graduated. God is also healing your nervous system. Constant stress, emotional chaos, and unpredictability trained your body to stay alert. Now God is retraining you for peace. That process can feel unfamiliar. Calm can feel boring when chaos was normal. Give yourself time to adjust. You may notice your body craving rest more than before. Sleep, stillness, solitude. These are not signs of depression. They are signs of restoration. God is restoring your inner world so you can function from wholeness, not survival. Chosen One Detox also reveals truth. As emotional fog clears, you see people more clearly. You see patterns. You see motives. You see inconsistencies. That clarity can hurt, but it also protects you. You may feel less tolerant of manipulation, guilt, or emotional games. That is not hardness. That is discernment. God is sharpening your awareness so you no longer confuse chaos with connection. There is also a spiritual aspect to this detox. God is quieting external voices so you can hear Him clearly. When the noise fades, His guidance becomes sharper. That silence you are experiencing is not empty. It is full of instruction. Some days you may feel emotionally neutral, not overly happy, not overly sad, just steady. That steadiness is not numbness. It is regulation. It is the baseline God is establishing for your next season. You are learning to exist without constant stimulation, without constant affirmation, without constant drama. That independence is powerful, but hear me, do not isolate completely. Detox is not meant to turn into withdrawal from life. God is teaching balance, not disappearance. Solitude is meant to restore you, not hide you. If you feel misunderstood right now, that is okay. You do not need to explain this season to everyone. Those who are meant to understand will recognize the peace on you. Those who don't are not meant to have access right now. Chosen One emotional detox is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. God is cleaning house internally, removing emotional residue, healing old wounds, strengthening boundaries. And when this detox completes, you will not return to who you were. You will emerge calmer, clearer, more grounded, less reactive, more discerning. You are not losing yourself. You are finally meeting yourself without survival mode attached. And that version of you is strong enough to carry what God is about to release next. Another sign of this emotional detox is how your tolerance for confusion has dropped. You no longer accept mixed signals, vague intentions, or inconsistent behavior. Where you once tried to interpret excuse or fix, you now observe and step back. This is not judgment. This is clarity. God is teaching you that peace is not something you earn by pleasing others. It is something you protect by honoring truth. And truth does not require you to overextend yourself emotionally. You may also notice that you are more selective with your time. You value quiet mornings, unhurried moments, and conversations that nourish rather than drain. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship. God is showing you that your energy is a resource, not an endless supply. There will be moments when guilt tries to creep in, when you wonder if you are being too distant, too firm, too unavailable. When that happens, remind yourself of this. God never calls you to abandon yourself to prove love. Love rooted in exhaustion is not holy. As this detox deepens, you will feel a stronger sense of self-trust. You rely less on external reassurance. You check in with God and with your own discernment before making decisions. That inner alignment brings peace that no applause can replace. You are also learning to sit with emotions without being ruled by them. Sadness no longer defines you. Anger no longer hijacks you. Joy no longer depends on external validation. This emotional stability is a gift many seek but few cultivate. Chosen One detox is not punishment. It is preparation. God is removing what drains so He can multiply what sustains. What feels like emptiness now will soon be filled with purpose, clarity, and direction. Trust this process. Rest in it. You are not being stripped. You are being restored. Why God is separating you without explaining Himself. Chosen one, this is one of the hardest lessons God teaches His people, and it is where many begin to doubt themselves. God is separating you, and He is not giving you detailed explanations. Not because He is distant, but because He is building trust, not dependence on understanding. You want clarity. God wants obedience. You want the full picture. God wants faith in the next step. Separation without explanation feels uncomfortable because it removes your sense of control. But control was never meant to be your anchor. Trust was. There are seasons where God explains, and there are seasons where He simply moves you. This is one of those seasons. God is rearranging your environment before He reveals your assignment. If He explained everything now, you would try to negotiate what must be released. Some relationships are ending not because of conflict, but because of misalignment. You didn't argue, you didn't fight, you simply grew, and growth changes proximity. God is not punishing them, and He is not rewarding you. He is positioning both of you for what comes next. Let me say something that may be difficult, but freeing. Not everyone who walked with you is meant to walk with the version of you God is forming now. Some people were seasonal, some were supportive, some were instructional, but seasons change. God rarely explains separation because explanation invites bargaining, and bargaining delays obedience. If you knew exactly why someone had to go, you might try to hold on longer than necessary. God removes quietly, so you can release gently. You may feel confused about why certain people drifted without closure, why conversations stopped without conflict, why invitations faded. That confusion is part of the separation. God is teaching you to let go without needing answers. Separation also protects you. There are environments that cannot support who you are becoming. There are conversations that would pull you backward. There are expectations that would limit your growth. God removes you before damage happens. You might feel isolated at times, like you are standing alone in a quiet space with God. That solitude is not abandonment. It is intimacy. God often speaks most clearly when distractions are removed. Chosen one separation refineses focus. When there are fewer voices, God's voice becomes clearer. When there are fewer obligations, obedience becomes simpler. When there are fewer emotional entanglements, discernment sharpens. This season may feel unfair. You did not do anything wrong, yet things are changing. That is because growth does not require wrongdoing. It requires readiness. God is also teaching you that your identity is not rooted in community approval. It is rooted in divine calling. When God separates, He is pulling you out of familiarity and into purpose. Some of you feel guilty for moving forward, while others remain behind. Release that guilt. Growth is not betrayal. Obedience is not abandonment. God does not measure love by proximity. There is also spiritual protection in this separation. Some people would resist your growth if they stayed close, not intentionally, but subconsciously. Their fears would become friction. Their limitations would become constraints. God removes you before their resistance becomes your hesitation. You may notice that you no longer fit in places you once belonged. Conversations feel shallow. Values feel misaligned. This is not judgment, it is evolution. Separation also reveals who truly supports your growth. Those meant to remain will not compete with your obedience. They will respect your boundaries. They will celebrate your peace. Those who try to guilt you, pull you back, or question your growth are revealing their attachment to your old version. God is teaching you to walk forward without dragging others along. You are not meant to convince people of your calling. You are meant to follow it. There will be moments when you question if you made the right choice, when loneliness whispers doubt. In those moments, return to stillness. God is near. Chosen one. God separates before he multiplies. He isolates before he elevates. He removes before he releases. Trust this season, even without explanations, because God sees what you cannot yet see. And when the time comes, the reason for this separation will make sense in ways explanation never could. There is something else God is doing in this separation that many chosen ones overlook. He is breaking the habit of spiritual dependency on people. For a long time, you leaned on certain voices, confirmations, or relationships to feel secure. God allowed that in earlier seasons. But now he is teaching you to stand with him alone. This does not mean community is unimportant. It means community cannot replace communion. God is shifting you from external reinforcement to internal conviction. That shift feels uncomfortable because it removes familiar support systems, but it also creates unshakable faith. When God separates you, he also removes distractions disguised as blessings. Some relationships were not harmful, but they were consuming time, energy, and attention meant for God. Separation frees space, and space invites clarity. You may feel like your life has slowed down. Fewer plans, fewer conversations, fewer commitments. That slowing is intentional. God slows you down so you can hear him without rushing past instruction. Chosen one, understand this clearly. God does not explain separation because explanation satisfies the mind but weakens the spirit. Faith grows when obedience precedes understanding. This is not the season to figure everything out. It is the season to trust what God is pruning. You might feel misunderstood. People may assume you are withdrawing out of fear, pride, or confusion. Resist the urge to clarify. God does not need you to manage narratives. He needs you to remain aligned. There will be moments when memories pull at your heart. Moments when you miss people who are no longer present. Let yourself grieve without guilt. Separation does not erase love. It simply changes proximity. You are allowed to miss what God asked you to release. Missing does not mean disobedience. It means you are human. God is also separating you from old identities, roles you played, masks you wore, expectations you carried. As those fall away, you may feel exposed. But exposure is not danger when God is your covering. Some of you are learning that separation is not rejection. It is redirection. God is closing doors not to trap you, but to guide you. And he does not always label the doors he closes. If you knew exactly what was ahead, you might rush or hesitate or fear. God withholds details to protect the process. Separation also strengthens discernment. When your circle shrinks, your clarity expands. You notice more, you hear more, you sense more. That sensitivity is a gift God sharpens in quiet seasons. You may notice that you are becoming more selective with who you share your heart with. That is not distrust. That is wisdom earned through experience. God teaches discernment through distance. There is also humility in separation. It reminds you that your worth is not measured by how many people surround you. It is measured by how faithfully you walk with God when no one is watching. Chosen one, there is no rush in this season. God is not behind. You are not delayed. This pause is purposeful. You are being aligned, not sidelined. Let go of the need for constant reassurance. Let go of the urge to chase what God has already released. Let go of timelines that pressure you into anxiety. God is steady. He is intentional. He is present. Separation prepares you for discernment in leadership. You cannot lead others well if you are still entangled emotionally. God untangles you now so you can walk with clarity later. And hear this deeply. Some people will re-enter your life later transformed. Others will remain in earlier chapters. Both outcomes are okay. Your job is not to decide who stays. Your job is to follow where God leads. Trust the silence, trust the space, trust the slow. Because when God brings you out of this season, you will carry a strength that cannot be shaken by explanation or absence. And you will know without doubt that separation was not loss. It was preparation. How to steward this new power without losing yourself. Chosen one. This is where wisdom matters more than excitement. Power without stewardship destroys the vessel that carries it. God did not activate you so you could burn out, grow proud, or disconnect from your humanity. He activated you so you could walk in alignment without losing your soul. The first thing you must understand is this. This power is not yours to show. It is yours to carry. The moment you feel the urge to prove, display, or perform spiritually, you step out of alignment. God gives power to be embodied, not advertised. You steward this power by staying rooted in humility. Humility does not mean shrinking. It means remembering where your strength comes from. You did not awaken yourself. You were awakened by grace. And grace requires reverence. Guard your inner life fiercely. Prayer is no longer optional decoration. It is maintenance. Silence with God is not inactivity. It is recalibration. The more authority you carry, the more stillness you need. Noise dilutes discernment. You must also steward your emotions with honesty. Power does not mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being ruled by what you feel. When anger comes, acknowledge it without acting recklessly. When sadness visits, allow it without drowning in it. Emotional suppression is not strength. Emotional regulation is. Another key is rest. Chosen ones often confuse endurance with holiness. God never asked you to exhaust yourself to prove faith. Rest is obedience. It keeps your power clean. Fatigue distorts discernment and makes you vulnerable to pride, resentment, and spiritual confusion. Watch how you speak about yourself. Identity language matters. Do not define yourself by opposition, struggle, or uniqueness alone. You are chosen, yes, but you are also a servant. Power anchored in service stays pure. You must also remain teachable. Activation does not mean arrival. God will continue to refine you. Correction will still come. Conviction will still visit. Do not resist it. The moment you think you no longer need refinement, you begin to decay. Be cautious with who you allow close access. Not everyone deserves proximity to your inner world. Discernment is not judgment. It is protection. Share wisely. Oversharing drains power. Sacred things are not meant for every ear. Do not compare your journey with others. Comparison either inflates ego or breeds insecurity. Both are dangerous. God custom-built your path. Stay in your lane. Stay in your timing. Another vital part of stewardship is obedience in small things. Many want big assignments while neglecting daily faithfulness. Power grows stable through consistency, not intensity. Show up when no one sees. Serve when applause is absent. That is where strength deepens. You must also forgive quickly. Holding bitterness contaminates power. Forgiveness is not excusing harm. It is refusing to let harm shape your spirit. You cannot carry clarity while dragging resentment. Stay grounded in love. Not emotional attachment, but mature love. Love that holds boundaries. love that speaks truth gently, love that does not rescue people from lessons God is teaching them. You will be tempted to isolate completely. Resist that extreme. God did not activate you to disappear. He activated you to serve with wisdom. Solitude is medicine. Isolation is avoidance. Know the difference. Remain connected to your body. Eat well. Move, breathe. Spiritual strength does not replace physical stewardship. You are not a spirit floating through life. You are embodied for a reason. Finally, remember this. Power does not mean life gets easier. It means you handle life with greater steadiness. Challenges will come, opposition will rise, but you will not lose yourself in the process. Chosen one, stewardship is how you remain whole while carrying weight. Tend to your inner life. Stay close to God. Stay honest with yourself. If you do this, power will not consume you. It will serve through you. Conclusion: stand still and let God complete it. Chosen one, take a deep breath and settle your spirit right here. Nothing you are experiencing is out of control. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is delayed. What God began in you, He is faithful to complete. And He does not rush His finest work. You did not unlock this new power by force. You unlocked it by surrender, by endurance, by choosing faith when clarity was absent. That is why it is stable. That is why it is lasting. And that is why no one can take it from you. You are not required to prove anything in this season. You are not called to convince anyone. You are not meant to rush ahead or look back with regret. Your assignment right now is simple, but not easy. Stand still, remain aligned, and let God finish what He started. Some days will feel quiet, other days will feel heavy, but neither means you are off course. Growth does not always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels calm. Sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it feels slow. Trust all of it. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not misunderstood by God. Even if people misunderstand you, heaven recognizes you. And that is enough. Carry this power gently. Walk humbly. Love wisely. Rest without guilt. Speak when God leads, and be silent when He asks. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. If this message resonated with your spirit, chosen one, like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tap the bell icon so you don't miss what God sends next. And share this with another chosen one who needs confirmation right now. And comment 777 below as a declaration that you trust God's timing, God's process, and God's purpose for your life. Remain steady. Remain faithful. God is not finished with you yet.